Chapter 6. Teleporting, as it turns out, is absolutely nothing like it looks in the movies. You don't just step gracefully from one glowing circle into another, adjust your color, and walk away. No, teleporting with Sasha felt exactly like being shoved into a washing machine, set to the highest spin cycle, and violently ejected against a solid brick wall. We crashed onto solid, freezing ground in a tangle of limbs, cloaks, and groans. I hit the dirt hard. My shoulder was screaming in protest as my face buried itself in a patch of icy slush. For a solid 10 seconds, the world was spinning in aggressive, nauseating circles. I rolled onto my hands and knees, coughing violently and desperately fighting the urge to empty whatever was left of my school lunch onto the snow. "Get up!" Sasha rasped. Her voice was completely stripped of its former fiery authority. I rolled my head over. Sasha was on her knees a few meters away. Her hands were clutching the frozen earth. Her orange hair was singed, her face smeared with thick black soot, and her entire frame was trembling. She wasn't looking at me or at Vera. She was staring blankly at the spot where the orange portal had just snapped shut, leaving us completely alone in the freezing wind. Quick and Zyle were gone, buried under a ton of ancient oak and department plasma fire. "Well," a dry, distinctly unamused voice said from somewhere to my right. "That was a spectacular disaster, truly a masterclass in tactical retreats." Vera was standing up, brushing snow and library dust off her elaborate, dark purple outfit with meticulous, annoyed precision. Her brown hair was a tangled mess and her glowing purple eyes looked absent of sympathy. She looked around at the bleak, snow-covered landscape, the jagged mountains looming in the dark, and let out a dramatic, miserable groan. "Oh, wonderful! You brought me back to the frozen rock," Vera muttered. Her fangs flashed as she hissed at Sasha. "Couldn't think of anywhere else to drag your new stray. I'm sure your father will be absolutely thrilled to see me again. Maybe he'll invite me for tea this time, instead of just threatening to hollow me out." Sasha snapped. She moved faster than my human brain could process, crossing the distance between them in a blur. She slammed Vera hard against the trunk of a dead, frosted pine tree, with her forearm pressing viciously against the vampire's throat. Orange flames literally spit from Sasha's free hand, illuminating the dark woods around us in a flickering glare. "Two of my people just died? Back there," Sasha snarled. Her voice was a low whisper that cut straight through the howling wind. "If you make one more comment, one more sound, I won't even wait for my father's permission. I will melt your skull right here in the snow and leave your ashes for the wolves. Do you understand me?" Vera didn't flinch, but her purple eyes narrowed into glowing slits. The lazy boredom vanished instantly, replaced by a cold, ancient hatred that felt older than the trees around us. She gave a stiff, fractional nod, though her claws visibly dug into the bark of the pine tree behind her back. Sasha held her there for another second before shoving her away in utter disgust. The flames died out, plunging us back into the dim, freezing twilight. I dragged myself to my feet. My knees wobbled like overcooked noodles. My worn sneakers were already completely soaked through. The freezing slush seeped into my socks. "Look," I said. My teeth chattered so hard I was actively biting my own tongue. "I'm really sorry about your friends. I am, but can someone please tell me where the hell we are before I freeze to death? And follow-up question, what exactly did I do to make the magical SWAT team want to murder me?" Sasha took a deep breath, physically forcing her grief down into whatever dark box she kept it in. She turned to me. Her green eyes were tired and completely hollowed out. "We are at White Rock," she said, gesturing towards the horizon. I turned around, wiping sleet from my eyes, and my jaw dropped. Looming at the end of the valley, positioned aggressively against the jagged mountains, was a massive fortress. Its towering walls were made of pitch-black stone, piercing the bruised evening sky like teeth. There were no festive lights, no welcoming warmth, just an aura of pure, miserable hostility. It looked less like a castle and more like a heavily fortified prison that actively hated its inmates. "It's heavily guarded," Sasha explained. Her voice dropped back into a monotone as she started moving through the knee-deep snow. "My family's magic is woven deep into the stone. It's the only place in this sector of Darton that can mask your simian signature from the department's trackers. As long as we get inside the walls, they won't be able to scan for you." I hurried after her. My sneakers slipped hopelessly on the ice. Vera trailed a few paces behind us, moving over the snow with a weightless grace. "Okay, but you keep saying simian signature," I pressed, wrapping my thin jacket tighter around my shivering shoulders. "What does that even mean? I'm a high school student. I struggled with basic algebra yesterday. I don't have a signature, and I definitely don't have a magical rock." "The 6 worlds aren't planets floating in space," Sasha said, not looking back. "Think of them as 6 massive rooms in a pitch-black house. The Simian corridor is the hallway that connects them. Thousands of years ago, the Simians built that hallway, and they built the doors. They also built a master key to lock the doors down if things got out of hand. That's the Simian stone." "And the department wants the master key?" I guessed, stepping perfectly into one of her deep footprints to avoid sinking further into the snow. "The department wants absolute control," she corrected bitterly. "If they hold the stone, they control who travels, who trades, and who gets trapped in their own world forever. But the stone is tied to Simian blood. To use it, or to alter the corridor, they need someone with the ancient lineage." She stopped and pointed a gloved finger right at the glowing golden circle of my freezing forehead. "That mark means you carry the bloodline. You aren't just a kid, Max. Biologically, you are a walking key." I stared at her. The freezing wind whipped my hair across my face. "I am a key," I repeated flatly. "I can't even get my locker at school to open on the first try, but sure, let's go with that." "They don't care about your math grades," Vera chimed in from behind us. Her tone dripped with morbid amusement. "If they catch you, they'll lock you in a gilded cage, hook you up to the stone, and drain your essence to keep the corridor running smoothly. You'll be a very important, very dead battery." I swallowed hard as a fresh wave of nausea hit me that had absolutely nothing to do with the teleportation. "Speaking of captive batteries," I said, glancing back at the vampire, "if you guys hate each other so much, why didn't she just leave you in that library to get shot?" Vera's smirk vanished. Her purple eyes darkened, fixing onto Sasha's back with pure venom. "Because her psychotic father put a magical leash on my stall," she hissed, as her voice dropped into a register that made the hairs on my arms stand up. "I step out of line, I try to run, or I let his precious daughter die and my blood literally boils in my veins. I am a conscript in their little rebellion, nothing more." "You were part of an invading army that slaughtered our guards and tried to steal our magic," Sasha shot back, not even bothering to turn around. "You're alive because my father is pragmatic. Don't mistake it for mercy." "Ah, fantastic," I thought. I've been rescued by a walking fire hazard with a sufferer complex and a homicidal vampire who is legally bound not to kill her. Fantastic dynamic you two have, I said. I live in a concrete apartment block where my parents literally stare at the wall for 4 hours a day, and I'm pretty sure your magical death fortress is still going to be the most toxic environment I've ever stepped foot in. Just stay close to me, Sasha ordered as we approached the iron gates of the castle. The air around the gate was shimmering slightly, like heat rising off asphalt in the summer. The snowdrifts hide the defensive runes. If you wander off my path, the outer shields will trigger, and I really don't have the energy to sweep your ashes off my driveway. I let out a long, exhausted sigh. It was barely dinner time back on Earth. I was supposed to be ignoring my homework and playing video games right now. Instead, I had an unwanted glowing sticker on my face. The interdimensional police wanted to plug me into a wall like a router, and I was about to walk into a frozen, miserable castle filled with people who had survived a little war. Lead the way, I muttered, following her footsteps exactly into the shimmering barrier. Let's go meet the parents.